All right, good morning, everyone. Today, Thursday, March 6th, it's a ESS Finance Subcommittee meeting. Welcome, everyone. First on the agenda is the February 6th, 2025 summary of subcommittee action. Everyone have a chance to review. Do you have any questions on that, or I would entertain a motion?
This is Gerald, and I'll make a motion.
And Sherry also moved, so let's, Sherry, okay with being the second? Okay, she did.
So Geraldine's our first, Sherry Jones is our second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Sherry voted in aye in the chat pad too. Thank you.
Next up, we have the financial reports, accounts receivable update.
Hey, it's Lisa. So the only outstanding we have is for the MOU for the month of February. I think, Mel, I know that was sent to you, so we're probably waiting for the check to come from you. So, you agree?
Yes.
All right, thank
Yep.
you.
All right, accounts payable for February. We had the Orion resolution here for $775. This was actually from the 2003 contract, which we signed, but the services were not delivered. And then we ended up switching to the cloud. So we negotiated with them, and the $775 what was left of that bill. The $20.85 was for drinks for the in-house ESS coordinating meeting on February 20th. And then the 4 expenses below were to reimburse Denise, Travis, Lisa, and Stacy for their mileage to attend the in-house meeting. The $25,050 expense for AccuSoft. This was originally in the budget. We did approve that to be moved to the reserve in the last February meeting. So this will actually be a reserve expense. And then I do have the office space and internet bill for Enterprise Iowa highlighted here. This is a normal expense that you see every month. However, this does include the credit for the reimbursement for the plane tickets to Priya, since Phil did not attend this week. Credit card expenses. We had the Set to Go annual expenses, the $99.99, and also the $279.99. And then the Palmer's Deli, the $259.55, along with the tax reimbursement for $29.89 for the ESS coordinating meeting last month. The negative $320.18 was to reimburse us for the taxes that were originally charged in the January annual QuickBooks bill from Intuit. And then the JetBrains was an annual expense for $2,001. I'd be happy to answer any questions for the payment reports for February.
Could you just refresh my memory on what Sectico is, and then that last $2,000?
Phil, can you?
The one that is labeled JetBrains is an annual license. It's a product that our 3 software developers use doing their development work. It kind of is, I'm not the expert in this, but when you're doing software development, you do the development, you do what they refer to as a build, and this is a mechanism that they use to manage the code before it gets moved into production. So that's what that one is. And what was that? What was the first one?
Set to Go.
Okay, Set to Go is our digital certificate. So in order to have a website that is secure, which you know by the prefix of HTTPS:// we need to have digital certificates in place. And they need to be in place not just for our production site, but also for our staging and production activities as well. In addition to that, we also, because we manage a site that we call ESS Pay. It's not a public website, but it is how we manage the payment system that we provide to Lynn County for their online license reservation or renewal system. And because that's a payment system, we also need to make sure that that is secure as well. We previously were using a certificate system that I would say is much more robust. And at the same time, it may have had a few bells and whistles that we didn't 100% need. So as a cost-cutting measure, we did change from a company called DigiCert a couple of years ago, and Set2Go was more of an open source certificate site and substantially less expensive. So if we had the resources, I would maybe work with Kelly to consider going back to DigiCert, but this is perfectly satisfactory. It does provide the sufficient protection, but it is less expensive. So that's what that is.
Thank you.
You bet.
There any additional questions about the February ESS payments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
This is Susan Smith. I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a first. Do we have a second?
This is Gerald, and I'll second.
We have a first by Susan Smith and a second by Geraldine. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we have the March Fund 255 reimbursement invoice.
So the Fund 255 reimbursement invoice to the state treasurer came in at $39,881.94. We have an agreement with them to reimburse us monthly. So this would actually be for the January submissions. This is set to help us pay for our payroll every month. As you can see, the 39,000 doesn't cover everything. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'd ask for your acceptance and approval to submit this to the state treasurer's office.
Anyone have any questions? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve. Sherry Jones moves to approve. Do we have a second?
This is Gerald, and I can second. Oh, I see Kelly seconded.
Kelly Spies second. So Sherry Jones moved to approve. Kelly Spies second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we have the 2025 January financial reports.
Okay. First up is the Bankers Trust checking account. The ending balance in this account was 0. We were successfully able to reconcile this account. The money market sweep account that we set up at the end of November had a beginning balance of $934,297.27 with an ending balance of $1,309,554.43. The interest for January came in a little bit lower than what we've been seeing. That interest rate has stayed about the same. It came in at $1,273.33. I believe for February, this has raised a little bit. We were able to successfully reconcile the money market sweep account. And the drawdown account. Profit and loss for January. You'll see the money market interest at the top here. We did have one bad payment or a chargeback for the month of January. So this would be the $35 that we're passing on to the customer when they charge us back. Budgeted income came in at $148,655.19. With revolving income of $3,042,437.98 with a total income of $3,191,093.09. The transaction fees that would have actually been for December, banking fees, I'm sorry, we're a little bit higher this month, but the interest for January, so this would be the interest for January, and these would actually be the banking fees for December, and December was way higher than that one we were expecting, so that's why you're seeing this little bit of a difference here. Now, budgeted expenses at $118,137.63. Depreciation, it did drop a little bit. We had a few assets become fully depreciated at the end of 2024. So this is about a $4,000 difference here. Revolving expenses, $3,034,721.98 with total expenses coming in at $3,175,544.34 with a total net income of $15,548.75. For the budgeted only profit and loss, the budgeted income was $148,655.19. Budgeted expenses came in at $118,137.63 with a total net income of $30,517.56. Balance sheet for January. The BT checking account does show this $415,627.42 here. This is because we are accrual-based accounting, so this actual balance is zero. With the money market sweep account coming in at $1,309,554.43. With total fixed assets and liabilities at $2,561,389.76. The credit card statement for January had a beginning balance of $2,737.71 with an ending balance of $6,963.28. We were able to successfully reconcile that account. The Fund 255 account had a beginning balance of $164,286.89 and an ending balance of $161,074.16. And then the $39,881.94, which does reflect the Fund 255 invoice that we will be sending after this meeting this week. We were successfully able to reconcile the Fund 255 account. The profit and loss for the Fund 255 account. And the balance sheet for the Fund 255 account with total assets and liabilities of $161,074.16. I'd be happy to answer any questions for the January financial reports.
Anyone have any questions? Hearing none, I would take a motion to approve.
This is Gerald, and I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Geraldine.
This is Susan Smith. I can second.
So we have a first by Geraldine and a second by Susan Smith. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Sherry and Kelly in the chat pod, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we have the ESS Financial and Strategic Review for discussion.
Bill, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about
Yeah.
that. This agenda is really just to give you an update on several things. So we'll start with the actions of the ESS Coordinating Committee at their February meeting. So you had a meeting, we discussed some issues with you, including through minor budget adjustments, and I went to report the results of that to you. So one we've already talked about, and that is in February 11th memo that we shared with you at the previous meeting. We added the issue of the Orion device and the extra cost of that. That was something that had not been resolved at the time of your meeting, but it was resolved by the time that we met with the ESS Coordinating Committee. So the full background on it is that we had faced the issue of having to move to the cloud, and one of the reasons why we needed to accelerate moving to the cloud is that we were operating on one firewall. The backup firewall was not working. We were trying to secure the backup firewall, and it just was never delivered on time. And I would just say both Kelly and I were exasperated about the whole situation, and so we moved up our plans to migrate to the Lighted Cloud. Meanwhile, in the previous calendar year, which is actually 2023, we had actually placed an order for the backup firewall, even though it was not delivered. And it's one of those things where we have been going back and forth with Orion over this for almost a full year and a half without resolution. They kept contacting us saying they wanted payment, and we were saying, I don't think I should pay because you never delivered the service. And at some point you say, how do we break the logjam? Because we don't want to end up with people sending something to a collection agency. And we have worked successfully with Orion for a number of years. We don't think they're a bad company. And I basically ended up saying, guys, I'm not just going to say yes to this. Make me some kind of offer, to resolve this. And the resolution that they proposed, which we accepted, was that they were going to waive all of their service fees, which was something like $350, but we would pay for the basic service, the device that we ordered but never received. And even though it was a kind of a bitter pill to swallow, we really just needed to get it behind us. And so The fact was that in 2023, we did sign an order for the device, and Orion did pay Cisco for it. And so they didn't want to be stuck, even though, and it wasn't Orion's fault that we didn't get the device, it was Cisco. So to resolve the issue, we agreed, you waive all your service fees, we'll pay you for the device, and then we'll move on. And that's what we did. So that was the one item that was added to the request for approval from the ESS Coordinating Committee. And then the other items that we had already talked about, which included moving the expense for the AccuSoft Prism license and our DB2 license from the budget into the reserve fund, with the understanding that over the course of the year, we are going to try and build back resources through the management of our budget to put that back into the budget by the end of the fiscal year, which we did last year. That's exactly what we did. So we said, let's try to do that again. And then they also approved the change in the budget, which would allow us to move Mansur Garwal, one of our software developers, back from a part-time position to a full-time position. So they did approve that. And then the other update that I would share with you is that we are making an offer to Mansi to move that forward. And at this point in time, it looks like we're going to be able to move her back to full-time on March 17th. So those things that you had approved or recommended for approval to the ESS committee have been acted upon. Then another thing that was discussed with you at your previous meeting was the maintenance cost sharing credits. We shared with you basically the e-submission ratio tables, and then we showed you what the calculation of the formula would be for the credits based on the budget that had been previously approved. And then we discussed with you adding $95 in cost credits to each county, which we did. So the total expenditure for the cost sharing credits this year for this coming cycle amounted to $119,629.47. We presented that to the ESS Coordinating Committee, and they did approve it on the same basis that you did, and that is that we have an understanding that we're going to revisit the issue in May, and if the revenue is there and we have some resources, that we might actually add to the credit amounts. The other change that affects this is that for the counties who are served by Fiddler, we will not be charging the counties for maintenance expenses, nor will we be granting credits to those counties now, because Fiddler has withdrawn from the maintenance agreement. Under the provisions of the master maintenance agreement, either party has the ability to discontinue the agreement with 90 days notice. Fiddler has provided us with that 90 days notice. They have indicated that they will continue to serve their counties and maintain the connection with ILR, but they do not wish to do it under the agreement. We have not officially accepted that from them yet, and theoretically, we could still enter into a renewed agreement with them prior to June 30th of this year. But generally speaking, at this moment anyway, it would not be my intent to make extraordinary efforts to get them to sign the agreement, which they also did not agree to sign the amendment last year, which is one of the reasons we were proposing some modifications to the agreement so that going forward, agreements would not automatically renew. The financial equation with regard to the cost sharing credits could change, not just because the budget changes or we get more revenue, but we may be adjusting this to reflect that those counties served by Fiddler are not going to be participating. And that means that perhaps the resources should be distributed to the remaining counties. So I wanted you to be aware of that, and you know, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have in that regard. And then before I leave my update, I also just want to report to you that the coordinating committee did approve of the engagement with Denman for this year's audit. We do not have that scheduled as of yet, but on my to-do list is to finalize that engagement with them and get that on the calendar. I wish to kind of pre-acknowledge that Samantha has been doing a lot of work in preparation for the audit, kind of doing the homework assignments even before we've engaged the date of when the audit is going to occur. So we appreciate that. And then I would just remind everybody that because we're still in that transition period away from the old version of the 2080 agreement to the new one, and the change in the, you know, the role that the County Recorders Association has with regard to the finances of ESS, there's still a requirement that the association do a more extensive 990 return, and that is being done by Denman. I am hopeful, Melissa, that you are in communication with Denman on getting that piece done. But the $2,100 that will cost to do the 990 return for the association, because it is related to ESS, we do have that in our budget. So that, as far as we're concerned, we're proceeding ahead with that, and I don't have anything specific to report about that. So that would be my update on things that relate to following up from the previous month's meeting. So let me stop there and ask if you have any questions about that. And if there are no questions, Samantha, you can move to the chart that is in this month's packet. So
I just want to know, so Fiddler opting out of the maintenance agreement, so what does that mean for them versus the rest of us paying? What are they not receiving then opting out of that maintenance agreement from? What are they not receiving from ILR?
okay. Thank you. I believe I can answer that question. Hang on 1 second here. I'm looking at the ESS packet from the February meeting, and so under the terms of the agreement, get to the right page here. Under the terms of the agreement that we have with all the other service providers, if everybody else participates, we would pay to each county, that is ESS would pay to the service provider $3,228.70 in maintenance fees for each of their client counties in Iowa. That amount is determined by whatever last year's amount was, and then adjusted by the cost of living adjustment that we've agreed to, which is set by the Social Security Administration. Then it would also increase again in January because we're proposing to move from a state fiscal year to a calendar year. It doesn't really cost us any more money per se, but that would increase. So by Fiddler choosing not to participate in the agreement, they are foregoing $3,228.70 per county. The counties served by Fiddler have been notified that Fiddler has withdrawn. and that we will not be sending them invoices for maintenance, and that essentially for those counties, if Fiddler wants to be paid for their maintenance, they may be billing those counties directly. I don't know if they're
Can I
gonna do
answer
that or
this?
not, but that's what it may be. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Erin from Boone County. This whole Fiddler exiting the agreement thing had me all freaked out because I'm actually transitioning to Fiddler July 1. Fiddler has assured the Fiddler counties that they do not need this money from Iowa Land Records in order to continue to support the Fiddler counties. The main reason they're leaving the agreement is the stamping issue. Fiddler offers something called tagless scanning. Iowa Land Records wants to take back the stamping process. Fiddler doesn't want to give it back because every county that has tagless scanning loves it. So they don't want to take that feature away from Fiddler counties. They're not going to charge us anymore. They're not going to replace that maintenance that they previously got from Iowa Land Records. Essentially, what it means to us as a Fiddler County or going to be a Fiddler County is that if there is an issue between Iowa Land Records and Fiddler, the county recorder is the go-between.
I appreciate the insight, Erin. The Fiddler management, while I am aware that they didn't really want to change the stamping issue 2 years ago in the 2023 agreement, they agreed to do that. And it's a part of the master agreement that they signed and agreed to. So,
But why would you
what-
want to take awesome features away from
but
recorders?
Aaron, I would be happy to talk to you or any other Fiddler County about this offline. I've offered to meet with you individually or with the Fiddler counties as a group. But I also need to factually report that I have made numerous attempts to communicate with Fiddler management, and they repeatedly declined to meet with me. So this is not just a single issue about the stamp. They previously agreed to it. I am aware that some Fiddler counties, those that I've heard from anyway, like the stamping process that Fiddler used. On the other hand, we are responsible for administering a statewide system which works well. And we have a responsibility to manage our budget and our resources. And we have expressly stated that we really do not want to support a special version of the API. So this is not a new issue, and I would be happy to visit with Fiddler about it, or I would be happy to visit with the Fiddler counties about it. But right now, we're just at an impasse because Fiddler unilaterally decided not to renew their participation in the agreement. And I respect that. It is their right to do. I am not criticizing them. I may disagree with them a little bit, but I'm not criticizing them. And if they do what they say they're going to do, and that is to continue to provide service to these counties to maintain connection with ILR without participation in the agreement, we will work with them on that. Our technical team works with Fiddler on a daily basis, and we have no issues with them. The Fiddler technical team, I mean. And until it stops working, we're probably going to be okay with it. So we'll see how it goes. But the API that Iowa Land Records publishes, unless the law changes and says nobody has to do it anymore, the API that ILR publishes is the API. And I would just point out that as a part of the agreement that we offered to them and to every other service provider, we offered to extend the deadline for certain things beyond what the current agreements do, including implementation of the stamping process with regard to Fiddler. So I can always tell you the facts. We tried to communicate with them. They previously agreed to the change. Recently, they have not chosen to communicate with me as the project manager for the Iowa Land Record System. And it is their right to just continue the support agreement with us. And we will not provide them with the commensurate compensation because obviously they feel that they don't need that. And we'll just have to see how it goes. Okay. Did I answer your question, Jolyn?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you bet. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions about the update. As far as the chart in front of you, the good news is that the February numbers for each emission were up over the 2 prior years, so that is a very good sign. February is usually a low month, so there's a dip in activity, and it happened that way again. It followed pattern. I would not expect the March numbers to follow the pattern from 2022. That would be a very big jump. And I would just observe that the economy is very unsettled right now. So we're not getting overly optimistic. But so far this year, the numbers have been above projections, and that's a good thing. So that's all I have on that. And then with, I think the last item on the agenda was just to provide you with any update that you might want with regard to the fees and modernization initiative. I mostly need to defer to, if Stacy were here, I'd fully defer to her as one of the legislative co-chairs for the association. But it is my understanding that maybe as early as tomorrow, there's going to be a survey that is distributed to the members of the Recorders Association to ask their opinion about participation in Iowa Land Records ESS / oh, it went out yesterday. Thank you, Aaron. I didn't know it went out. Anyway, the survey is out there asking for the opinion of the membership. It is my general understanding that it's not a vote per se, like like a binding decision or anything like that, but it is a survey to gather information. And then my understanding is that the executive board is going to examine the results early next week. And then there will be a discussion at the business meeting at the conference next week to decide what to do. The bill, as reflecting what came out of the ESS and the association process over the interim, is, I think, fairly reflected in Senate File 371. It has some things that need to be corrected from a technical perspective, but it does represent what the proposal was that came out of the association and the ESS process. It was approved by the Senate Subcommittee, but its future is at best very uncertain. I'm not sure anything is going to happen to it. There are serious headwinds in the House. Without going into all the details, sure, there is an alternative proposal that is being considered through a subcommittee in the House Ways and Means Committee that would partially implement the fee increase, but it would also make some very substantive changes in the funding stream for our land records. And, I know that there are some statements that have been made that ESS and Iowa Land Records should continue. It still be a statewide system, but I'm going to just have to be honest and say that the structure as it would be presented in that bill as amended by the sponsor, would hamper the ability of ESS to function as a statewide system. I know some people who are championing that would disagree with that, but I can only give you my honest opinion that our ability to achieve some of the aspirations that were reflected in the bill advanced in the Senate would be very, very difficult to achieve. And I'm not really clear that in the long term, it would be financially sustainable, particularly if more than just a few counties chose to opt out of the system. So that's as objective as I can be. I would encourage the finance subcommittee members to talk to your executive board representatives or whoever you choose to get more information. It's my understanding that I will be at the business meeting next week, and I will do my best to provide information for whatever decision gets made. I would be happy to answer any questions of the finance subcommittee.
All right, I don't hear any questions. Do we have anything?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, well, looks like the next meeting will be April 10th at 9 a.m. for ESS Finance. Do I need a motion to adjourn?
You can just adjourn. You're the chair.
Okay, I'm gonna adjourn. And
That-
next time Stacy can be back in chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Melissa, for stepping in. I appreciate it.
Great
No
job,
problem.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.